Think you're good at what you do? You might be way off. We all like to believe we're good at something. Maybe it's solving problems. Maybe it's leading a team. Maybe it's something simpler, like being a good judge of character. And sometimes, we are pretty good. But here's a difficult question. What if you're not as good as you think you are? And what if the very fact that you think you're good is a sign that you're not? That's the strange and uncomfortable idea behind something called the Dunning-Kruger effect, a psychological phenomenon that messes with how accurately we see ourselves. The confidence illusion. In 1999, two psychologists, David Dunning and Justin Kruger, ran a series of studies. They asked participants to take tests in logic, grammar, and humor. Afterward, participants were asked to rate how well they thought they did, especially compared to others. What Dunning and Kruger discovered was bizarre. The people who scored the lowest often believed they had scored among the highest, and the ones who actually did well, they tended to underestimate their performance. In other words, people who don't know enough often don't know that they don't know enough. And people who do know a lot, they realize how much more there is to know and start to doubt themselves. It's a confidence paradox, and it affects far more of us than we think. Why does this happen? Let's say you're learning to cook. After mastering a few recipes, you start feeling confident. You've nailed spaghetti, you've made a great omelet, and suddenly you're giving advice like you're a pro. But here's what you're not seeing: the hundreds of techniques, the complex flavor pairings, the years of trial and error behind real culinary mastery. You don't know what you don't know. That's the core of the Dunning-Kruger effect. You don't have enough knowledge to recognize your own mistakes, because the knowledge you lack is the same knowledge you'd need to spot those mistakes. Dunning put it best: if you're incompetent, you can't know you're incompetent. Meanwhile, people who are truly skilled often assume everyone else knows what they know. They see complexity, nuance, layers, and that awareness can lead to self-doubt or silence. Where it shows up, you see this everywhere. In surveys, over 90% of drivers rate themselves as above average. Statistically, that's impossible. In the workplace, a staggering number of employees believe they're among the top 5% of performers, but most of them are wrong. And the internet? It's become a megaphone for misplaced confidence. People with little to no expertise often speak with the most certainty. They have bold takes. They're confident. They're convincing. And the real experts? They're usually still working through the nuance. They're cautious. They don't always speak in absolutes because they understand how complex things really are. The role of metacognition. There's another piece to this puzzle. Metacognition, our ability to reflect on our own thinking. Metacognition is what helps us realize when we're wrong, rethink our approach, or double-check our assumptions. But when someone is lacking skills in a certain area, they usually lack metacognition in that area too. So not only are they doing things poorly, they can't see that they're doing them poorly. It's like trying to proofread a language you don't speak. This is what makes the Dunning-Kruger effect so persistent and so very dangerous. So, what's the fix? The scary part? Once you know about the Dunning-Kruger effect, you might think you're now immune to it. But that, too, is a trap, because the effect isn't something you can just turn off. It follows you, especially in areas where you're still growing, still learning, still new. So how do you avoid becoming a confident amateur? Here's a start. 1. Be willing to say, I don't know. 2. Ask more questions than you answer. 3. Surround yourself with people who challenge you. 4. Keep learning and assume there's always more to learn. Because the most dangerous belief is that you've figured it all out. Final thought. We live in a world full of voices. Loud ones, fast ones, confident ones. But loud doesn't mean right. And confidence isn't the same as competence. The next time you feel certain about something, especially something you haven't deeply studied, pause. Ask, what am I missing? Because real wisdom isn't about knowing everything. It's about knowing how often you might be wrong. And that kind of self-awareness, that's where real growth begins. Thank you for watching. If this made you think or rethink, take a second to hit that like button. It really helps more curious minds find this video. And if you're into content that challenges how we think, feel, and grow, subscribe and turn on notifications. There's more where this came from. Let's keep questioning, keep learning, and stay humble.